boxing journalist in the US. He's a boxing writer on Twitter, all about this man's upbringing. He was late to the scene. He took up boxing about 20 years of age, and then met his wife at college, and they took a trip to Las Vegas it was during a Mayweather fight week about 8 or 9 years ago. And he was an amateur boxer as well, qualified for the US Olympic team trials. So he had a decent pedigree, but he hadn't sort of followed it into the pro game. Went to a Mayweather fight week, saw the billboards, saw the advertising, saw the bright lights, and just thought, this is a little bit of me. Yeah. And listen, I mean, obviously, you went over to Atlantic City, you've got that buzz, and it's weird, I guess, when you see your name on those billboards and you imagine, wow, this is what every fighter kind of dreams about. And he said that was what brought him to the game. He had about 80 amateur bouts. You'll see Manny Robles, who's in his corner these days, former trainer, of course, of Oscar Valdez and Andy Ruiz, and was in the corner the night that Ruiz stopped Anthony Joshua in New York. We were about 6 feet from the action because we'd flagged some incredibly illegal seating, but it's all done now, so we can't be...
Yeah, what are you going to do? Kick us out?
Statute of limitations is over on that one. Thanks very much. He was originally trained by Nate Jones, who in the early days, remember Floyd Mayweather's assistant trainer. He's the big lad always on the body bag with Floyd Mayweather. They, of course, both won bronze in Atlanta in '96, but he moved on to Robles. So good, very, very experienced coach in his corner. Now they just go through their paces. A little earlier this, I think, at Joshua's request to get the media work out of the way, because he's going to have a number of obligations throughout fight week. And I think in years gone by, it seems like maybe those things have taken a little bit out of the tank, and he realises at this stage of his career he needs to be fresh and ready as he can be on fight night.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got the power to do exactly what he pleases. Yeah. So, if he wants to do it earlier, then so be it. But going back to Owsley, from what I've seen, he's a slick sharpshooter. He's got quick hands. Like everybody, there is room for improvement in a couple of his fights. I have seen him, pour out his shots a little bit, and it's frustrating because when he does put them together, he's got nice quick hands. But yeah, like you say, his motivation to get into the sport and the reason he's doing it is encouraging to me. The fact that he wants to take that big time for himself, and that he's got a great management team signed with Anthony Joshua. So look, if he puts in the hard work and he keeps progressing the way he is and learning, then look, the future's bright for him.
Yeah, it certainly is. He the first 2 or 3 years of his career without a promoter, he went and essentially managed his own career. I'm not quite sure how. I'm quite interested to find out how that process was for him. Obviously, he's got a brilliant setup and team around him, from coach, as you mentioned, through to management now, but that wasn't always the case for this young man. So he's kind of done things the hard way, boxed on circuits around Wisconsin and around Chicago. Actually boxed on a few of Sean Dale Winter's undercards, and we had Winters over with Montel Griffin for the Alan Babish fight. And it was good fun speaking to him, wasn't it? We had Roy Jones on a few months later as well. Roy will be here, of course, for the commentary team. I think you're at the commentary desk with Roy Jones.
Well, yeah, I mean, talk about nerves.
Yeah.
Like, just meeting him a couple of times, I've been starstruck both times. So if I do get to commentate the last 2 fights with him, what an honour. It seems like that is going to happen.
But you've got on well with him before, even though he did call you Matt at one point.
Yeah, he did call me Matt.
Yeah, it's good he knows his stuff, he knows his boxing.
Yeah. yeah. But anyway, we'll forget about that. Cheers, Chris.
No worries.
But yeah,
Matt Baker.
Anyway, it's going to be brilliant, and from all of us in our positions doing what we're doing, we're completely blessed to be there, to watch this fantastic card and this fantastic talent that we're going to see. I'm just so intrigued by the main event. I really am. Yeah,
mixed broadcast team, of course, for DAZN. It will be on Sky Sports if you're watching in the UK. DAZN around the rest of the world in something like 170 territories. So we'll have a mixed broadcast team. Kate Abdo will be over with, as I mentioned, Roy Jones. Tony Belly will be part of the team. My good self, I'll be roaming around with Mike.
Him, won't we?
Yeah, you'll be slipping and sliding into the commentary. Tom Grisham will be leading the comms as well. So quite nice to just merge the two teams that have been pretty much separate to this point. I got a little taste of it out in Mexico, actually. They were good fun to work with the American team. Just watching Usyk go through paces with Robles. It does bang to the body really nicely. He's hurt a few people.
You can see the player snapping his shots. How's he when he lets them go? That's why I wouldn't say it's frustration. I just think it's, from my point of view, moving forward, it's important that he commits to the shot moving forward. My dad used to always say to me, and I always use my dad as kind of the benchmark, because he was my earliest memory coming from boxing, and he was like, look, if you're going to throw a shot, make it a proper one. Don't pour it out. Don't give your opponent the opportunity to counter you. And that's one of my earliest memories. And when you see someone like Owsley, who does have speed, does have power, commit to the shot. If you're not gonna throw a shot properly, then you're better off feinting. Don't throw nothing at all. Don't give your opponent the opportunity. And yeah, I think that's something that you just have to work on moving forward. Is just staying switched on.
His opponent, I don't think we're going to see him work out this afternoon. It's Kasam Basingurov, 21-1 with 11 knockouts.
Decent fighter, Chris.
Yeah, he is, and this is undoubtedly the biggest test of that man's career. Just one sole defeat to Rob Brandt. He was stopped on his feet after getting up once in the 11th round. That was for the WBA World Middleweight title. And he's a good body puncher too, Basingurov, hittable as well. We saw that against Brandt, who could punch, and that was his undoing in that fight. But he's been rebuilding in Kiev, various cities across the Ukraine. Yeah, some shape.
Yeah, it's currently what I'm looking like, Chris.
What, are you talking about Owsley or Manny Robles?
I've never looked that good, even in my prime.
Some are blessed.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, in great shape.
To be a good scrap, this actually.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Basingurov, like you say, very good fighter, good body puncher.
Ladies and gentlemen, undefeated middleweight Chris Owsley. Put your hands together out there. I don't care if you're press, I don't care if you're working. Let's hear it out there for these fighters. Let's make a little noise out here. Thank you very much. That's exactly what I want. Let them know you're out here. Chris Owsley, undefeated middleweight with Manny Robles. Doing a selfie, you gotta do it. Big fight week. And he's now gonna go talk to Chris and Darren over here as we wait for our next fighter to come up.
Oh, I hope he puts a t-shirt on before he chats to us.
Oh, as long as I ain't got to take mine off, it's fine. For everybody, him, the viewer. Nobody wants to see the dad bod.
This is quite weird. He's sort of walking through to our position, like something out of Baywatch in the 90s. Good to see you. Good to meet you. I'm Chris. This is Darren. It's great to have you with us. Your first fight in the UK. How are you feeling about it? You're talking into this mic.
He's fighting an lightweight here on Saturday night.
Trying to take it on, man. I appreciate my team, real friend, being Dave, all those guys, especially Anthony Joshua at 258 for giving me this opportunity, you know, and I just can't wait to show everybody what I got.
I was just going to say, Chris was telling me you've come up the hard way, really. You've had to do things yourself, etc. How great is it for you to be in the position you're in? When you know if you put in the hard work, you get the performance, you get the victory, then these doors are going to keep opening for you.
To be honest with you, it's kind of like surreal to me, you know, like without like me and my wife doing this all on our own, like I wouldn't be in the position I am today. You know, I just want to let everybody know, like everybody says, you know, you got to start boxing when you're a kid, like all that stuff. Like, no, like I started, I think when I was 21 years old, and look at me now. Look where I'm at now. Look at the stage. It's so big. It's so real.
How did you meet Anthony Joshua and the 258 guys?
I met those guys actually through social media. I was dealing with I was with Golden Boy at the time, and you know, I had to change things up, you know, and I wanted to bring somebody strong behind me, and I reached out to Will and Freddie and those guys, and they hit me back. It's like, we'll love to work with you. So, you know, like it just all happened. My wife was pushing it, like, do it, reach out to him. And I was like, they too big for me, you know, like they won't accept me. And then I reached out, and next thing you know it, wow, I'm here.
I've got to ask you a question. I used to be a middleweight.
Okay.
I mean, how on earth did you make middleweight?
Wait till fight night. Wait till you see me out the weigh-in. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be huge. I'm gonna be huge.
Yeah. So you make the weight comfortably?
Oh, I make the weight comfortably. I was making 154 comfortably, and now 160. I'm even stronger. Like I'm more cut up.
I mean, as happy as I am for you, it's so annoying. So annoying.
But this is a big challenge for you. Basingurov, tough guy. Only that one defeat to Rob Brandt. We know he can fight. What do you anticipate could be the main issues you'll encounter on Saturday?
The main issues that I'm probably going to encounter is I don't really have anyone as far as like boxing wise, but you know, he's been in the ring. He fought in world championship fights, but you know, like I'm here to take that from him. You know, like all the experience and stuff, everything goes out the window when you're in that ring. You know, like, and I'm here to do my job, and my job is to put him out. You know.
Okay, great stuff. Well, Chris, really good to meet you.
Yeah.
And we'll wish you all the best. We'll see you in a few days.
Yeah,
nice
absolutely.
one.
See you guys
Right.
later.
We'll let you head off down that way. It's Chris Owsley. What a cool guy.
Yeah, lovely man.
Yeah.
And you know, you get the sense there that he's just living the dream.
Yeah.
You know, where he's come up the hard way and just loving it. And yeah, I'll say it again. How does he make middleweight?
Mad, isn't it? Absolutely mad. Second on the bill, Campbell Hatton back in action. Tell you what, he's had a pretty solid run for his first 4 fights, hasn't he? White Vec in 2 undercard, Gibraltar, Chisora Parker undercard in Manchester, Zucan Leewood undercard in Eddie's modest back garden, and now Spurs Stadium on Joshua's undercard.
Ain't bad, is it?
That's got to be the best 4-fight run of any novice pro, potentially in history.
Yeah, I would say so. And look, we've discussed this, and everybody knows this. Campbell Hatton is a work in progress. We've got to be patient with him. He's learning on the job, if you like, 20 odd amateur fights, which is nothing really when you consider most top amateurs have over 100. So he's learning, he's still young. But having the experience of being on these big shows, that's something in itself.
Yeah.
That helps you settle
You can't replicate it,
You
can
can't
you?
replicate that. Being under the bright lights in those big events and big arenas are priceless. So that coupled with the progression that he's making, like I say, it's baby steps. We can't get carried away yet, but it's all kind of coming together. The package is on the right path.
Well, I always remember the debut of Conor Benn. I got tickets as a fan in 2016. It was a couple of days before we flew out to see all the Rio Olympians qualifying out in Samsun in Turkey. And I remember the bong of what was Nigel Benn's theme music, and out walks young Conor Benn, and thinking, I don't really know much about this kid, and intrigued to see where he goes. And I think, you know, he met the same sort of trepidation and I suppose anticipation from the audience, didn't he? And it's taken him, in the best part of 5 years, to start to turn the tide of public opinion.
Yeah, and there was, I think, obviously there was a lot of question marks over the Cedric Payno victory, especially the first one. You know, did he deserve it, etc. But there was a point where he just kind of turned the screw with Tony, and things started falling together. And I think that was a lot of it due to maturity. And I think that's something that Campbell Hatton, once that maturity, not just physically, mentally, that will help with his progression as a professional fighter.
His opponent, Sonny Martinez from Uruguay, resides in Spain. He's 2-4. Again, the kind of level of opponent you would expect at this stage of Hatton's career. He's got quite a nice balance, moves pretty well. Wants to kind of step in behind a shelter jab, like dip the shoulder to the right, step in behind the jab, but can sometimes just throw single shots. And if Hatton is smart, he'll get countered. And he tends to kind of move around the outside of the ring, move clockwise, and he might be there for the kind of looping right hand on the turn a little bit later on. But the thing about this fight, of course, which is slightly different, is that this is his first 6-rounder. So he's got a little bit more time. We saw him just majorly in a whirlwind rush, as I think we probably expected he would be in Gibraltar, just because of the pressure and expectation that was on him. And, you know, all of the hype, the documentary and all the interviews, and everyone just was eyes on the young kid. And I think he just felt so much pressure to get the knockout. He was just telegraphing everything. But yeah, settled certainly the last couple of fights, and definitely you're seeing the slow progression that you would expect. And he's now got that opportunity to settle down, measure his timing, his distance a little bit more, and has the 6 rounds to get the job done.
You'd be surprised how much different those 2 rounds make. They really do. You just got a bit, like you say, you got a bit longer, blah, 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 but it's longer for your opponent to survive. So if you are putting educated pressure on your opponent, it really does sap the energy. On a technical side of things, the only thing that I've kind of had an issue with Campbell Hatton is just the pouring of the jab. He kind of pushes the jab as opposed to snapping it. When he's inside and he's doubling up the left hook to the body, the uppercuts, you know, they're really good shots. It's just you've got to be a bit snappier with the jab. I mean, these are all things that Matthew's going to work with, and speed, you can increase the speed. But I think that just working a bit sharp on the jab is what's needed from Campbell. But yeah, look, I'm buzzing with his journey already, and I can't wait to see him in Manchester again with that crowd. It's just, it's incredible.
Yeah, and of course we've got kind of the next gen shows that will be worked into the schedule. I think there's one before the end of the year, possibly November time is what we're hearing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of see him pop up on a couple of those. But the one thing he has done, which is absolutely spot on, is be busy, get out on regular intervals. He gave us a nod just across the way from the commentary desk in Leeds. He was sat front row, the opposite side of the ring, and I just thought, blimey, yeah, I've seen you a lot this year, and that's testament, because you realise sometimes with certain fighters, you think you only see him once every 8 or 9 months, but we've seen him a lot this year. And
it all plays its part, Chris, not just the fight itself, the weigh-in, the press conference, it all really helps on your journey.
Campbell, Hurricane Hatton, undefeated in lightweight, fighting out of Manchester, England, in a 6-round contest on Saturday night.
Of Andy Jones, Kerry Kays will be over with him as well.
What a man Kerry is.
Yeah, and do you know what? Will be interesting to see as his career progresses. His dad tended to cut, didn't he? Because he had very kind of sharp features, kind of like sharp brow, sharp sort of cheekbones and stuff. And he's got a very similar facial structure to his dad. He's a spitting image. So I think he may need to call on Kerry Kays a little bit later down the line.
They are ringers, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
They are absolutely ringers. But yeah, Kerry, what a man. He knows his stuff. You can just sit and listen to Kerry talk. So Campbell, as far as that's concerned, he's in safe hands with his coach, obviously with Matthew, his dad, as a mentor, and especially Kerry with the S&C and the nutrition, etc. He's in very safe hands. And like you say, this activity, seeing him all the time, him being under the bright lights, it's going to help him an awful lot.
Yeah, it is. And third fight on the bill, 2 of the most explosive European welterweights around the scene, Florian Marku and Maxim Prodan, will do battle. These 2 scheduled to meet. I forget which week of fight camp it was, 2 or 3, I believe. Yeah. But there was illness, and so we've had it rescheduled for this bill. But I think potential to be a really, really good fight. This Maxim Prodan, we know this. The running order, Florian Marku in the ring. Campbell Hatton is currently just speaking to Sky Sports. So once he's done with that, we'll head back over to the ring and watch Florian Marku going through his paces with Clifton Mitchell, and then we'll head to Maxim Prodan 6:30. Lennon Castillo, who is the challenger for Callum Smith, as he makes his 175-pound debut on Saturday night. Then Dylan Krasovich will challenge for Lawrence Okoli's WBO World Cruiserweight title, the first defence of that belt. And then just a small headliner, as I'm sure you are aware, Oleksandr Usyk, the former undisputed Cruiserweight World Champion, steps up to face the unified heavyweight professional, as always. That's what people are tuning. That's what people are tuning in. They've got the choice of 2 streams, and it's either do we want professionalism or do we want, we'll go with Chris and Darren. So let's head back over to David.
Continues here at the O2 Arena. In our next contest, I have to tell you, I am so excited for it. It really could be one of the sleepers of the night. 10 rounds for the IBF International Welterweight Championship. 2 young, undefeated fighters in a Nixon Hill contest. Right now, making his way up to the ring for the workout. He fights out of London, England, by way out of Albania. This fight is also an association brought to you, of course, by Mr. Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing in association with OPI since '82. So fighting out of London, England, by way out of Albania. He's a southpaw and he's dangerous. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Albanian King, Florian Marku.
There he is, Florian Marku.
Yeah.
And you can't see him, but you'll be able to hear him. And that is kind of the story of Sam Jones's life, actually, isn't it? Really, he is. Well, he's seen and he's heard. But he's here with us. Welcome, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good. Where you are, mate?
You look a bit nervous, mate.
I'm not. Listen, it's fight week.
And there is your man. How did you end up?
What's happening?
He's giving you the smiles and the eyes. How did you meet this man?
He actually approached myself and Adam. God, how long have we been? 2 years now? Nearly 2 years ago. He approached us. We had a meeting, and we never really looked back after that.
Have you had your Jerry Maguire moment off of him yet? The show me the money.
No.
I would love to see you screaming, "Show me the money."
I wouldn't put it past him.
Show me the money. No, not at that moment with him. Maybe on Saturday when he knocks Prodan out.
Yeah, this is this is another step up for him. You know, the Ryan and Charlton fight was just there to ask him a few questions, but he showed something quite interesting in that fight. Darren and I were saying, you know, he's a macho guy. You know he's physically strong. We know he can punch, but he actually dropped the ego in that fight, stepped off and proved he can box, brought him onto shot, and actually made Charlton, not to be disrespectful to Ryland, but made him look one-dimensional at times, and he's not an average fighter. He's a good fighter.
Yeah.
Do you think we might see a little bit of that against Max and Prodan?
Chris, honestly, this weekend you'll see his best performance. From what I've seen in the gym, if he translate that into his performance, he'll knock Prodan out within 6 rounds.
So it's not going to be a similar performance to the Charlton.
I think
more aggressive.
I think it will. But I think Charlton with Sandler, like it was well documented afterwards. Florian had a bad hand in that fight before the Charlton fight. He really probably shouldn't have boxed. I'm not just saying. I know people say this, but against Prodan, he is 100% fit. There is no excuses, and I know I'll be staggered if this fight goes past 6 rounds. Yeah, I'll be shocked. Really shocked if it goes past 6 rounds.
Because with Prodan, I mean, the one thing that he's a very good puncher. He's aggressive. He comes forward, but there is an absence of a jab, and that does lead when guys are on the back foot and they can pot shot and punch, like we saw with Tony Dixon. He is hittable, and I guess with some of the power of Florian Marku, that could be his undoing. Yeah,
definitely as well. Like Florian's opponents, like people that walk in straight lines against Florian, they're going to be in trouble because he punches very, very hard. And he really does. And Prodan is there to be hit. But listen, Florian can't have any lapses in concentration against Prodan because Prodan's an undefeated guy. And he's coming here as the champion. He's undefeated, and he won't want to lose against Florian. Florian's had a lot less fights than him, a lot less experience in him as a professional boxer. But I believe Florian will win genuinely within 6 rounds.
Where does, in your opinion, say all goes well and Florian wins?
Yeah.
Where does he go on from there?
I want him to fight Conor Benn.
Would you and the team take it straight away?
I would have took it for this fight.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. It's Conor Benn's. It comes across probably not, but like I'm a big fan of Conor Benn. I think he had a slow start. It was like a slow burner at the beginning. He's improved drastically, but he's been match made perfectly, in my opinion. Florian's had, as I say, Ryland Charlton that's a hard fight for you. What it was, his 7th or 8th fight. He's ready to go now.
But let's be honest, though, right? I know you're obviously his manager. Yeah. Is Conor not on a different journey? He's a bit higher in I mean, he's chasing world title eliminators, world title shots. Why? I'm playing devil's advocate here. Why should he fight Marku?
Because it sells out any arena in the country, and
but your goal, your aim is to become a world champion. So why would he fight Marku now?
Look, as I'm saying, if I was Conor Benn's man, I wouldn't either. But because he's looking at fighting the Americans that are kind of on their way down, and looking at Amir Khan's, but like. Beating Amir Khan, does that really get you a world title shot? I don't really believe so. I think him against Conor Benn look no further than an absolute super fight like that. I think, again, it sells out anywhere in this country.
Does it not worth waiting then for a big title or something? You know, like we've seen it before in the past with fights that you think should happen now. Oh, but don't get me wrong, sometimes there's fights that don't happen.
Yeah.
The Amir Khan, Cobra, for example, they just go
marinated. They get
over-marinated. But could we not wait to make this fight a bit bigger?
Yeah. You can always wait, but I would want it. But like I say, if I was Conor Benn, I wouldn't want to fight Florian just yet. I'd want to do it. He's looking at fighting a Broner, a Victor Ortiz. They're great fights for Conor, and I'm sure he'll come through them. And Florian's on his own path. This is his first title on Saturday. It's a massive night for Florian on Saturday.
Right. Okay. So the Conor Benn fight doesn't get made.
No, not next. It won't be next.
Then what are you looking at?
I would fight Robert Guerrero next.
Yeah,
for Florian. I would fight Robert Guerrero next if Eddie can make that fight. That would be fantastic. There's a homecoming there that Eddie wants to do, and we want to do with Florian Albania because he will sell out any stadium in Albania.
Yeah.
So we're looking to do that. I think it'd be great. The Zone would love to put their teeth into that kind of situation for Florian.
Tirana.
Yes. Tirana, yeah.
Tirana.
He's
I've got C in geography.
Good man.
But he can anywhere in Albania. Florian would say if you do an indoor stadium. Anywhere, football stadium, outdoors. He already packed the stadium out when he boxed when he did MMA.
Right.
So he's in. They're waiting. They're desperate for him.
Yeah, Eddie said the number of messages he gets when he's on the fight weeks is absolutely bonkers.
They've bought a lot of tickets on resale as well. The Albanians. You're going to see a weigh-in here, and it'll be just full of Albanians.
Oh, really?
I'm certain of it. Yeah, there's going to be just Albanians here.
What's he like as a guy?
Honestly, generous. Really lovely person he is, but it's like dealing with a child. He's so excitable. Like he's like.
Got it. Who have I got in my life that's like that?
He's like he if you watched him in like even when he boxed Charlton, I'm not just saying this, his hand was bad.
Right.
But he said, if I can't beat Ryan in Charlton with one hand, I want to retire from boxing. They're the things he said. But he's like, when you're going on a night out, you get. It's like how he is. It's like it's crazy. It's like he's going on a night out when he works. Look at the big smile on his face now. Look, he's so excitable, like a big kid. He won't be denied on Saturday.
Bit of a dream to manage. Is he good fun to manage? In some ways.
Not on fight week, no. No.
Why's that?
I had to go and drive 20 miles to go and collect his tracksuits from the show. He's like, bro, go and get this. I need a groin guard. I need a new groin guard. And he keeps me on my toes on fight week. But no, he's other than that, he's a lovely, lovely person, Florian. And he works very hard. He's come up the hard way as well. He was brought up in Greece. He was born in Albania, but he was brought up in Greece. He's been all over the world. He lived in Switzerland, Greece. He's earned his strike. People think he's just got these he's got the Instagram followers and all the backing he's had, but he's got it through kickboxing world champion, 2-time kickboxing world champion. He's 8-0 as an MMA fighter, and he's undefeated as a professional boxer now as well. He's done it the hard way
and improving every fight. He is.
His last performance was better, but I honestly think you're going to see the best performance of his career against Prodan on Saturday.
Nice
Sam,
one.
great to see you, mate. Thank you very much. Great. What a guy. Cheers, Sam. Take care.
Yeah.
Florian Marku.
Thanks, guys.
Nice one, Sam. Thank you very much. That's Florian Marku's workout completed. He's now going to go and have a chat with Sky, and then we're going to watch Maxim Prodan go through his paces. I mean, that's about as confident as you're going to get in your man getting the victory, isn't it?
It must be so exciting being, being that confident, but working with Marku, who has that incredible fan base, because there are opportunities. And I get exactly what Sam's saying about wanting to fight Conor Benn. That I was just playing devil's advocate and saying, why would they take the fight? But there are options. It's a really good division domestically and across the world. And yeah, there will be plenty of opportunities for Florian because of that fan base and because of his boxing ability if he keeps winning.
I overlook Maxim Prodan, though, with the number of knockouts that he's got on his record, what he brings to the party. But there is that element of just one-dimensionality in him. And we saw Marku expose stylistically a similar type of opponent in Ryan Charlton with the same kind of flaws, and that is for me, that's what's sticking in my head could be the difference maker.
Definitely. Don't get me wrong, and it's no disrespect to Charlton. I do think Prodan is a level above, but you're right, he is one-dimensional in the sense that he relies on his power. Not much setting of traps, it's trying to land the big hooks, etc. And I think Marku's just a bit too smart for that. And it'd be surprising if he does what Sam thinks he's going to do and is going to be aggressive from the off and try and make Prodan miss and make him pay. It makes for a great fight because Prodan can punch, like we've alluded.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us on the stream, welcome. We're at the Indigo O2. Chris and Darren, as always, if you follow the Matchroom feeds, probably sick of us by now, to be honest.
Making his way to the stage.
As David Diamante just bringing Maxim Prodan into the ring.
International welterweight champion, originally from the Ukraine, now living and fighting out of Milan, Italy, Maxim Prodan.
And there is Florian Marku's opponent, Maxim Prodan, Romanian national, born in the Ukraine, now based in Italy. We saw he had a close fight with Tony Dixon, who we know can really scrap, and then one man we do know can really scrap and can really fight is Florian Marku. Good to see you, mate. How are you? We're going to get to talk into that microphone. We just had Sam Jones on. He can talk, Sam Jones, can't he?
Yeah, of course. This is his job.
That is his job, and your job is to get business done on Saturday night.
Exactly.
How do you box this guy on Saturday?
I will knock him out with a help of God inside of 6 rounds.
Inside of 6, okay.
This is my plan. When they ask Prodan what did she think about me, he think that I made mistake. But I will show to everyone this is my moment, and Prodan make a big mistake that chose this fight with me.
We've touched on it before. Against Ryland Charlton, you showed you're more than just aggressive. You can box on the back foot, you can move, and you've got a lovely jab. Are we going to see some of that early on, or are you going to be more aggressive in this fight the start.
I will go for the knockout from the start.
Center of the ring.
Oh,
Yes,
tasty.
I will go for the knockout.
Tasty. Okay, because we saw you against Ryland Charlton box and move a little bit
Yes,
more.
because with the last fight before Ryland, I didn't throw one jab, and I want to show to people that
Is this the bad hand?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And now we're
But
all
now we are great.
looking strong.
Oh my God!
How much-
I've been waiting this moment all my life.
Do we have much more weight to lose?
No, nothing. I'm really good. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
struggling at all. Thanks God, I'm very good.
Fantastic. And we hear there are going to be a fair few Albanian fans in the house at the weigh-in and also on Saturday.
100%.
Yeah?
They will bring the Albanian flags there. You know?
Always loud, mate. They're always loud.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Bro. We'll let you rest up,
Thank
mate.
you.
It was great to
guys.
see you.
Thank you, guys. Take care, guys.
See you. You can head whichever way you want, mate. You can go down the steps or...
Thank you.
Yeah, top man. Thanks a lot for him.
I mean, that is a guy who oozes confidence.
Yeah.
You know, in his ability, he's he really fancies the job, and he's someone, rightly so, who's just enjoying the journey.
Yeah, he certainly is. Well, Prodan had debated split decision in Milan, for those of you that watched it, over Tony Dixon. It was 98, 92, 97, 93, 94, 96 across the cards. It was a very close fight. I think he was expecting Dixon to come and meet him at centre ring and fight with him. And actually, Dixon showed something completely different in that fight. Boxed, moved, walked him on to jabs, pot-shotted him. Just had Scott Hamilton from matchroom. It's like a picture of us with a Kodak camera rocking. I don't know what a moment. It was like the 90s.
That's thrown me a little bit.
I mean,
I've got some
brilliant.
stories about them in Malia as well.
Yeah,
but that's a
crikey.
story for another day.
On the bonfire.
Yes. What I will say, with Prodan, you don't really see this from him in his fights. He's very, what's the word I'm trying to look for? I guess compact and well disciplined, and setting up the big shots. But in the fight itself, he's just so eager to land the big shot. I don't know if you've seen it. The controversial was it his last contest against the Italian,
Christopher, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a mad ending that
was bizarre, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah.
bizarre. But again, the Italian very slick, moving an awful lot, and made it difficult for Prodan.
Well, that's what makes me think. Given the two fighters he's had the most difficulty in his last two fights, that is almost the blueprint to beat it, because he can really, really bang this guy. You don't really want to be getting caught in the crossfire. Well, maybe Florian Marku is confident enough to do it.
Well, I think Marku is probably thinking, well, that is the blueprint. That's how to beat him. But I want to show everybody, look, I'm a hard, tough, big punching fighter myself, and I want to do it the hard way. But he's confident. But I've no doubt this man is, he certainly knows how to box. And like we've touched on numerous times this evening, he can really bang with both hands.
Well, you can see the hook. You see a little jab coming out there. He doesn't, as you say, doesn't use it a great deal.
No.
When he's fighting, he steps in. He looks to come through the side door, not the front door. And it's technically lovely, doesn't he? Just will we see a level up from him? Will we see a change of tactic? Does he understand that he's in with a better opponent than his last couple? How was he prepared for it? Never write off a fighter, never assume it just because what you've seen in the last 3 or 4, that's how they were going to approach the next fight. We saw that with Marku. Maybe we see it from Prodan on Saturday night. Very, very interesting fight this. See the Ukraine and the Italy flags on the back of his coat there. George Amagaros. Clifton Mitchell, Kurt Gibbons and Sam Jones over with Florian Marku, just off to our left-hand side. Some nice teams in the bubble this week.
It's something to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's mind games or not, but it's a good opportunity for fighters to play mind games, especially with the weight making. So we've got the weigh-in on Friday, obviously, and you'll see some of the fighters like Prodan wrap up and whether he has to lose weight or not, maybe trying to plant a seed into Marku's head saying, I'm struggling with my weight. So bit of full sense of security. So when the fight does go past 6 rounds, it's getting hard for Marku. He's like, I tricked you there. And then on the flip side, you got Marku who had his top off. Has to say to Marku, Prodan, sorry, look, I'm not struggling, but mate, I'm good. I'm, all's well. So you'll see a bit of that this evening, other than the heavyweights, obviously. But some fighters will wrap up, some won't. And yeah. I used to wrap up because I had to.
What was it? When did you have to go and do laps
be
of Ali
honest-
Pally? Was it a Commonwealth title?
No, before the Southern Areas title, I was
Yeah.
a couple of pounds over. I didn't get the weight right at all that fight. Yeah, this is what we used to do with Prodan, the big hooks. But more, I know he's just going through emotions here, but when he sets things up with the jab, which doesn't happen often, he does have more success. Jab to the body, come back with a right hand to the head, as opposed to just throwing at someone who can move like Marku when he wants. And I don't mean just on his feet, he's got good head movement, throwing Marku. And Prodan won't land many hooks unless he sets them up.
And Marku's got the ability to switch as well.
Yeah.
Change looks and adjust. A lot of that kind of comes from the Muay Thai background because they do inherently just kind of switches as they step in sometimes. He's made a decent transition from that kind of style to boxing. You wouldn't necessarily look at him. There are shades of the old style, and you always see that when you get fighters transition over from either K1 or Muay Thai. But he actually looks pretty well rounded as a boxer. We were speaking to one of the old Muay Thai fighters. His name escapes me now, but I messaged him and said, "What's Marku like to fight?" This is before we kind of actually called one of his professional fights, and he said, "Super solid, like hitting a brick wall. His head's solid, his body's really like concrete." And he said, "Then it's hard to underestimate how much that takes out of you as a fighter when you're hitting something that's so solid. You feel like you can't move him. It can be a little bit disheartening."
Yeah, it's like hitting the heavy bags. Yeah, it's action.
Since '82. Maxim Prodan right here, originally from the Ukraine, now living, training, and fighting out of Milan, Italy.
We're actually in Milan next week, aren't we, Chris? Good show. Looking forward to that. Living the dream, haven't we, mate?
And ladies and gentlemen, our next contest, we're going to go ahead and bring up our next fighter. 10 rounds in the light heavyweight division. This gentleman now making his way to the ring. He's a 2008 Olympian. Please welcome El Orgullo de los Minas, Santo Domingo.
So, David, just get through introductions there.
Castillo.
So Lenny Castillo making his way into the ring. Most of you will probably know him from the Dimitri Bivol fight. It was maybe 2 or 3 years ago now. And, he was not about boxed in every round, but he was competitive and he showed he's a decent operator and he knows how to handle himself at this kind of level. And Bivol was very, very good that night. And yeah, he mixed it and he showed shades of what he can do. He's ultimately just up against a very, very good champion, probably the best in the world at that time and still one of the very best.
Yeah, for me, look, he had no intention at times of really biting down his gumshoe and letting his hands go in that contest. And look, that's because he was in there with a real good operator in Bivol. But when he lets his hands go, they're very quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to just spin the microphone around here because we are joined by none other than Manny Robles.
Right?
Well, yeah, we're just talking. We got Lenny Castillo in the ring at the moment. Manny, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
I appreciate you having me.
No,
Thank you.
it's great to meet you. Right over here with Chris Owsley, of course. How did you come to meet Chris?
Well, we've been working together for about 3-4 years now. He's got a football background, American football that is. So he's only been boxing for about 6-7 years.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been that long. and he's learning on the job. He's learning day by day with every fight, so he's getting better and better.
Yeah. Did he arrive? I know you said he mentioned he had some kind of amateur background as a kid, but then he gone into football. How do you think he's progressed in the time that you've had him in the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, he's progressed very well. Like I said, he's learning on the day, on the job, and he's fairly new to the game. He got a scholarship to play football, so obviously, he went to school, and this is a kid with a degree and with a football background, and all of a sudden, the passion for the sport, the passion for boxing made him go back, and here we are today in the big stage.
Yeah. I mean, how has the transition been? I mean, I guess there's an element of natural talent there for him to be able to take on boxing, but how has it been for you working with someone, obviously, who has that talent? Has it been kind of learning on the job with Christopher?
Absolutely, learning on the job, as I said, learning every day. With every fight, this is I explained to him when we got here, look, this is a big stage, and you've probably never experienced this before in your life, so get ready for it, you know what I mean? And embrace it, and learn from it. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than this. Being on a great card, Usyk versus Joshua, it doesn't get any bigger than this. With possibly the best promoter in the world with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing. I mean, just get ready for it. Psychologically speaking, mentally speaking, just he's learning.
And you, of course, were the mastermind behind Anthony Joshua's first career defeat. A huge night. We were both there. It was a shock for all of us, of course, an amazing moment for all of you. You've seen Joshua since that defeat. He's changed. Saturday night playing out, and who do you predict will come out on top of Saturday?
Well, look, let me tell you something. You learn more from your defeats than you do from your victories. Yeah. And I believe Joshua learned a great deal from that defeat. He was a different fighter come the second fight, fought a different fight. He went out there and really pretty much boxed Andy Reese for 12 rounds. And he made adjustments. And I'm sure come Saturday night, he's going to be making those type of adjustments versus someone like Usyk. Usyk is a very elusive former Olympian, great amateur background, former world champion in the cruiserweight division. This is not a walk in the park for Joshua. But Joshua's not afraid of a good challenge. So you have to respect him for that. And I mean, Joshua's a fighter that I admire and I'm a fan of, and I do believe this has the makings of a fight of the year for sure.
It really does. And who are you picking?
I'm picking Joshua.
You're picking Joshua,
Yes,
yeah? Late stoppage, points?
I see him winning by points.
Yeah.
I see him winning by points. It's going to be a close decision, but it's going to be a very entertaining fight.
Fantastic.
Manny,
right.
Pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for coming up and
Thank
seeing
you
us.
for
We
having me.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Cheers.
Take care. Manny Robles. We get to meet some cool people.
Oh, we are so lucky.
Yeah. I really do feel like a complete nobody at times.
So do I, mate.
Yeah, well, at least you've done something.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. You've got a world middleweight title. I've got a backstrip badge from 1996.
I've got one of those.
Have you really? Made me feel even worse. So Lenny Castillo going through the motions. I think a very kind of worthy challenger for Callum Smith at this stage. There's no point putting him in with somebody anything below this kind of level, because ultimately he's in his early 30s now, moving up, and he's already mixed it. And you've got to remember, this isn't like he's going from 168 to 175, only 7 pounds, and he's already a massive guy. It's not like this is suddenly going to be really easy for him to make the weight. It's just that those last 5 or 6 pounds that are the most stubborn to come off, especially when you're as big as him, are not going to be there anymore, and that's going to give him the room. But the level of competition is still going to be high. He still wants to fight the best, and ultimately, I guess you'd be with me in thinking he doesn't really want to have more than 1 or 2 what you would call tune-ups or tests before boxing the very best in this division.
No, Callum's desperate to be a 2-weight world champion. He believes he can be. He wouldn't be boxing if he didn't believe so. He'll have to be on game. He will. Castillo can fight when he wants to. The way I see this panning out is Castillo to be quite cagey early on, and if Callum hasn't hurt him, or he doesn't respect Callum's power, then you may see Castillo start putting his shots together. And like I said before at the top of him getting into the ring, he can throw really quick shots when he wants to. He can put them together well. So I think it's a case of him sort of being cagey, seeing what Callum's got, and then kind of not so much biting down his gum shield, but starting to put the shots together. On the flip side, I think it's a case of Callum to really grab the fight by the scruff of the neck from the off, hold the centre of the ring and get behind that jab. That's exactly what Bivol did. Bivol looked for the right hand as well over the jab of Castillo. So it has the ingredients. This, if Castillo turns up and wants to really have a go at this, it's got the ingredients to be a good fight, Chris.
As you said, just went into show a little bit against Bivol. He was dropped by right hand over kind of lazy jab that sometimes just brings back a little bit low after he throws it, and that was what Bivol exploited in the middle rounds. Put him down, the legs went, and he recovered well and saw out the 12 rounds of the fight. As you say, just Bivol, as he tends to, just knocks the ambition out of opponents. I'd argue that the best challenge he's had so far, that probably Joe Smith or Craig Richards have had the best go at him, but with, again, only really sort of limited success, 60-40, 70-30, which way you look at it, and he remains one of the trickier challenges at light heavyweight, but of course there are others as well. Joe Smith, who was due to defend against Umar Salimov. The news broke about 2 hours ago now that he's come down with COVID-19, so of course we wish him full and speedy recovery in that fight, and that defence of his WBO title has had to be postponed after Beterbiev. Of course, with the other 2 belts in the division, no easy routes really to a world title at light heavyweight.
No, there isn't. It's a fantastic division. They're the divisions you want to be a part of. So for Callum to move up to light heavyweight, he'll be encouraged and looking forward to the journey.
Castillo, 2008 Olympian, fighting out of Los Pinos, Santo Domingo, República Dominicana.
So we'll hear from all of the fighters for the final time this week, Thursday afternoon. As always, be live on Matchroom Boxing social media, wherever you're watching around the world. And then Friday, the open weigh-in at the O2. I think tickets are just £1 if you're in the local area, going to charity as well. And there will be a decent chunk of people for that weigh-in. And won't it be nice to just have that big fight feel back again? It was so strange. Joshua and Pulev, it was a few hundred in attendance, but still very quiet comparatively.
It was.
Spurs Stadium on Saturday night, 60,000 plus in attendance, and a proper pick and fight for the unified heavyweight world championships. But for Lenin Castillo, big opportunity for him to upset very, very highly regarded fighter in Callum Smith, making perhaps a slightly overdue move to £175. I think it's fair to say that he looked flat and started to show signs of a fighter that was struggling at the weight as early as the John Ryder fight. He was really pushed around in that fight, and the consensus was that Ryder had comfortably done enough to get the nod, and he didn't, and that caused a lot of conversation on social media, and no doubt that would have been part of the first conversations with Smith, that is it time for you to move up? But of course, when the opportunity of Canelo Alvarez is on the horizon, you have to hang on, because of course the world title was his bargaining chip for that fight.
Absolutely. But look, we've got to this position now, and let's see where this goes. He's definitely more suited to light heavyweight, and if he's still got plenty left, which I'm sure he has, it's gonna be another exciting chapter.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, making his way to the ring, his opponent. He's the former super middleweight champion of the world, one of the Force fighting Smith brothers, fighting out of Liverpool, England. And he's making his debut at 175. Please welcome to the ring, Callum Mundo Smith.
It's all changed then for Callum Smith. And even though he is coming up from 168, he will still probably be one of the biggest light heavyweights in the world. I think we might grab him for chat after this. I'm not sure if he's on our list or whether he'll be going over to speak to Sky, but you'll see just how big he is at light heavyweight too. And of course, not just a change in weight divisions, but a change in trainer as well. Buddy McGirt in his corner, well known to the Smith brothers, has worked with some of them in the past. Moved up himself as a fighter, after losing his world title, 140 pounds to Meldrick Taylor, it was in the late 80s that, and then he went on something like a 21 fight unbeaten streak all the way up to the Pernell Whitaker fight in 93. He started as the #1 welterweight in the world, and so he knows what kind of revival you can have going up through the weight divisions. But of course, he was a lot younger when he did that. He was something like 24 years of age, Buddy McGirt, whereas Callum, now 31, hasn't got time on his side as such. And if he's going to fulfill his ambitions of, as you say, becoming a two-weight world champion, he's going to have to move at a decent pace now.
Yeah, what he does have, where I guess you could say lack in age, his best years perhaps are behind him, but what he does have is a great foundation from what he's done as a super middleweight, and he has superb maturity now. He learned an awful lot on the journey that he's been on, and filling out with the frame that he has won't be a problem. He'll still have to lose weight for sure. But like you touched on, he will still be a huge light heavyweight, just moving up. Will definitely be a bigger puncher for that extra weight, no doubt. Maybe more punch resistance. I mean, he already took a fantastic shot before, but look, I think that the pace of the fight may slow down a little bit where you're light heavy. Not a great deal. You've seen them a bit more perturbed. They do let their hands go, but you can a tad drop the pace down. So that does help for longevity.
Yeah, he's the best part of 6'4" and then some, but next to even somebody like Lawrence Okoli. He's a shade taller than Oleksandr Usyk, a proper monster. And there's nowhere really, you look at somebody like Lawrence Okoli, you can actually see he's not the biggest of legs. And you can see, right, okay, massive upper body. But you can see where he makes the weight. With Callum, he's got very well balanced physique, calves, legs.
Spread evenly.
He doesn't, there's no way you can look at him discernibly and say that's where he's able to lose so much weight. But I mean, honestly, how on earth this guy makes super middle, and we say it with a lot of fighters. We spoke to Chris Owsley there, but this guy honestly is an anomaly even for boxing.
Yeah, definitely massive. And when you're looking in the ring and you may see that huge advantage, it's still a real chore to get down, and that saps you a lot of your advantages, like your strength and your power. So what he did do at super middle, it was really impressive. But the weight aside, he's a very, very talented fighter. He's fundamentally very good, works behind the jab. He's got tremendous power, mixes it up, head and body. There's an awful lot to like. Moves his head well, his feet well. He's, there's a good bit of everything, and that's what you need to become a world champion, to be the best of your game. And he's got, like I say, brilliant foundations to now move up into the light heavyweight division. And
Buddy McGirt, of course, there are examples of him taking other light heavyweights at late stages of their careers, particularly Sergei Kovalev. And he understands that you're not going to rewire and re-engineer a fighter who's this far down the line in terms of their fundamentals. But what he will do is tidy certain things up here and there, add little bits to the game. Whilst the basis of what we're likely to see on Saturday night is pretty much what we've seen from Callum Smith. There might just be little things that people will spot and go, that's where they've worked on.
A few tweaks, and that's all he'll need. He's a very good fighter as it is, but just a little bit more. And like you said, Buddy McGirt works with some good light heavyweights, and he'll just be able to add a little bit, almost dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and just making him a bit more, well-rounded fighter. And that's very encouraging. If he is able to implement some of his tactical advice and help into Callum Smith, it will be very exciting.
He's come in straight at number 8 with the WBO. People may criticise that, but I mean, personally, I haven't got a huge amount of problem with it. You think the WBO, if you're the champion in the weight division and you come up, you automatically become mandatory. Of course, he was WBA champion, but even with that said, I think you can sort of say it's a fair assumption that he's already one of the sort of top 10 light heavyweights in the world or thereabouts, and ultimately his performance on Saturday night will kind of confirm that to some degree. But when you look at the people around him, guys like Anthony Yard, Matthew Bordelli, he's clearly a little bit ahead of in terms of the level that he's boxed at and the titles that he's won. Boatsi's there, of course, at number 5, one more win for him, and you can see him maybe being in a mandatory position for Joe Smith Jr. He's number 2, of course, for the IBF and the WBA as well, so he's well placed. That is a potentially massive fight that people kind of floated a little while ago, a couple of years ago, projecting that Buatsi would go on to win world titles and that Smith may move up. We're getting closer and closer to that sort of fight becoming a reality as well.
I mean,
that's
a great fight. That really, really is. I mean, we're massive fans of the big domestic fights here in this country, and that certainly is. That's as big as it gets. Really, that's a massive one, and a fight that I'm all in. I'm sold.
Well, he's here with McGirt. He's also here with Sean O'Toole and Paul Reddy from STN Sports, his advisory management group. Johnny Reynolds, Paul Smith Senior and Junior, and of course Stephen and Liam Smith as well. The brothers, they go everywhere together. Wherever one is, they all go, and no doubt they'll be in full voice as the Scousers are. And of course, Liam Smith has got a very, very big night of his own coming up in just 2 weeks' time. So after AJ and Usyk, Darren and I are going to head off to Milan for a little bit of boxing, and then we'll come back and we'll fly straight to Liverpool. And well, what a fight that is, Smith and Fowler.
That's a pick-em. That really is. I mean, I've been doing the prep. We've done the tactics show for the Zone just Sunday just gone, and it really is. There's ways for both to win that fight, but it's who can implement their game plan into that fight the quickest has the best chance, obviously. But it's a brilliant fight. It really, really is.
I took Darren on the pads actually for that, and we were just showing them the catch and counter left hook that a couple of the Smith brothers throw. Liam throws it. Callum, I think, is probably most famous for it because he's knocked a few people out with it. But I was surprised at the speed that you were able to generate from the little catch and counter. I thought, listen, getting into that sort of twilight of his life now, still got it.
When I got home, I went and sat in a hot bath for about 3 hours.
Epsom salts, yeah?
Yeah, and I'm still aching.
He only threw about 15 combinations in 2 hours. No, it was good. It was good fun, and also I think our Joshua Usyk breakdown as well has just gone live on the platform a couple of hours ago. So do check that out too. We are now only a couple of fights away from seeing the main men in the ring. Dylan Krasovich is up next. He's the mandatory challenger to Lawrence Okoli, of course, the latest addition, championship-wise, to the cruiserweight division. Very, very interesting to see how his journey and path maps out. Will he end up moving up, and when is going to be the answer, because only a matter of time for Lawrence Okoli, isn't it? But I guess it will depend on how easily they can make the unifications that they want. Will Arsene Guillemarian be an option for the WBA? Will Makabu for the WBC, and will Myris Breedis, who of course has got his defence against Arthur Mann later on this year. And look, I think you can forgive Breedis for having a slightly soft touch. He's had some very, very tough fights over the last 3 or 4 years, to say the least. And no disrespect to Arthur Mann at all, but it would be a massive upset if he was to do it. I think Breedis was likely to get that one done with a minimum of fuss. And then I guess you'd be in agreement with me, if the fight with Breedis doesn't happen after that, it's probably never going to happen, and he either needs to look at other unifications or move up.
Or could that fight happen at heavyweight? Would Breedis move up? I'm not sure. Is there much more for him to do at cruiser? Probably not. No. He hasn't got the frame that Okoli has, but he may want a new chapter, a new goal. Who knows? But yeah, Okoli's got lots of options.
Mr. Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing in association with Ketty Boxing. We have 12 rounds of boxing scheduled. The WBO Cruiserweight Championship of the world. Now making his way to the ring for the workout, here is the mandatory WBO challenger fighting out of Montenegro. Please welcome Dylan Krasovich, undefeated hard hitter from Montenegro. Dylan Krasovich.
So Krasovich is rated as number 1 with the WBO. Somehow they've got Gassiev still ranked at number 2. Anyway, we'll talk about it in a bit. Good to see you, Callum. How are you? Come and join us. We've got Callum Smith in the studio with us while Dylan Krasovich warms up. A lot of change this for you, coming back at 175, but also with a new training setup. How long did it take you to kind of decide what your next step was after the Canelo fight?
I had some time off, but I knew right away I still have more to give. I knew if I had to stop then, a couple of years down the line I'd have regretted it and knew that as much as I've achieved, I'd have underachieved. In my opinion, I do believe I'm good enough to go on and achieve more and be a two-weight world champion. I knew I needed to change, the weight being first and foremost, and then obviously the training situation. And I was in a position where I was coming off a loss that I didn't have a fight date and I had to make decisions. It was on me when I wanted to fight again. So I took my time. I looked around and I decided Buddy was the right man for me. And each week in camp has proved that to be the best decision for me. I believe I'm improving all the time, and hopefully we get to see some of them this weekend.
And how nice was it to carry those few extra pounds? Because super middle must have killed you, mate.
Yeah, it was tough. It was getting hard, and I think while you're winning, you've got a belt. I was never going to give it up and move on, and I was performing at it. And as I always said, because I've been getting told since I was 2013, you'll be a light heavyweight soon, and I was always doing it okay. And I had a very good nutritionist in Scott, and I was doing it correct, and my performances were showing that I was still doing it. And then I think the last couple of fights, my performances have dipped, and I think it's that you have to listen to those. You can't just keep blaming them on certain things. And it was time to come at the right time. And with the loss, it was sort of a clean break, and now move up and try and set new goals.
Yeah, I guess nothing to kind of hang on to anymore in terms of the belt either. But we were saying, the last two performances you mentioned, it almost seemed like the fifth gear that you had before then, you suddenly couldn't access it. Must be quite a worrying feeling, I suppose, when you find you're actually not able to still do what you used to do too.
Yeah, especially at the level I'm at. You're 1% of what can be the difference, and I can probably get away with it at a certain level, but at the highest level, I've always said if the best version of me doesn't turn up, I'll lose, and that certainly did happen in my last fight. But it's just sometimes you've got to listen to your body, and I made it long enough. And if I won the Fort Canelo one, I'd have had a routine defence and won. I'd still be trying to make super middle now. So I think it probably was a blessing. I've always said if you lose, you've got to take the positives from it, and it's given me the opportunity to set myself new goals and give me a new look on boxing, a new back to where I was a few years ago, just chasing the pack rather than being the hunter.
Yeah, if I look at you from the outside looking in, I think to myself, you're probably just as dangerous of a fighter now as you were a few years ago, because you've obviously got bundles of money. You've been a former world champion. You've reigned the king of the super middleweight division, but you're still choosing to box. You've chosen to move up a weight and still continue. So for me, looking from the outside looking in, you're probably, if not as dangerous, even more dangerous now, because that desire is obviously still there.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said before, I just knew I'm in a position now where I don't need to fight. A lot of fighters do need to fight. I don't. I'm fighting because I want to fight and because I know.
But
I just know I'll in 2 years' time, I think, I could have done more. I could have achieved more, and I could have been more next to my name. And when I'm finished, then at the minute, it's a world champion and ring magazine champion, which I'm proud of. It's not had a great career, but I do believe there is more. And say the next couple of years, I'll see if I can go on and do that.
And how quickly would you like to be getting in with the world champions?
As me, straight away, I think we'll know a lot more after the weekend. If I go in and look and feel unbelievable, then I'd fight any of the champions next. If Buddy thinks we need another camp to get it to gel, we'll do that. But I think the achievements at 168 show that I am a world-class fighter. I can compete at world level. I think it's just how am I at 175, and I believe we'll know a lot more after the weekend. But I don't want to hang around. I don't want to load and warm and fight. I believe I've only 168 fights done that. I just want to get back to the ways, and then we'll plan the future.
And you've got years and years of solid fundamentals under your belt. We know that Buddy McGirt can do great things for fighters in the sort of later stages of their career. He's not going to try and re-engineer you from bottom to top, but he's going to add a few things to your game. What do you feel are the sort of overriding impressions, things you've learned from him in the time that you've spent with him?
Yeah, just a lot of what you said. He's very smart in how he does things. You position your feet where you are in the ring, and sometimes I throw a shot and he'd be like, why did you throw that shot? There was no need to throw it. Just throwing certain shots in certain positions, and at the start he kept correcting me, and I felt like getting a flight going back home. And I always felt that I was having to prove to him that I can fight. I'm a good fighter, and I felt that was bringing out a little bit more in me. I felt like I was back on GB on the assessments to get on. You've got to prove your worth, and I felt like that every day. And as the weeks were going, I was starting to get little compliments off it, and it was giving me a bit of a buzz, and I feel like we gelled pretty well. And then when I come back to England and started sparring, I was having people like my brothers and stuff saying you can see the differences in it, and I just hope we see some of them on the weekend. Hopefully get a chance to show some of the stuff I have improved on, because I definitely do feel I have.
Good stuff. Callum, great to speak to you, mate. I wish you all the very best. We'll see you at the hotel later on in the week. Thanks very much. It really does sound and feel like it is a proper fresh start for him, Darren.
Yeah.
You know, the way he's talking about Buddy McGirt there. This guy is like the early days of assessment on GB. I mean, you know what those are like. You've got the nerves, you've got somebody that doesn't necessarily know you well, you're looking to impress. And the way you used the expression there, I wanted to prove that I was a good fighter. You don't expect to hear something like that from someone at his level.
It's almost like he's starting again. It really is a new journey, a new chapter, and it's really encouraging to me. Like I said, he doesn't have to be doing it. Got millions in the bank. He's achieved what he's achieved, which is fantastic, more than anyone could dream of. But he wants to do it. He's getting up in the morning. He's doing it in front. He's making these sacrifices. He's going to the States. So for me, in some ways, it makes him more hungry. You know, he really wants it, and just seeing him there as well, you can see that extra weight. He does look like he's filled out. He looks extremely solid. I mean, which is incredible that we're saying that because he looked huge anyway. But at this stage, last time he looked drawn and looked quite vulnerable. But now he's really powerful, strong, and a solid light heavyweight.
Yeah, it'd be quite a decent statement if he were to stop Lenin Castillo. We've got a lovely Don McRae just come up to say hello to us on the steps. One of the best writers in the game of boxing. Absolutely magnificent writer and a brilliant bloke as well, Don McRae.
Yeah,
we're on telly, we're on TV,
Don,
Don, unfortunately, but we're just singing your praises anyway, so the audience at home know what a lovely man. We're very well, thank you, Don. But we are on telly, so we're going to speak to you later on. He looked horrified then. I said, listen, don't worry about it. It's not like professionalism, the hallmark of what we do anyway.
Yeah.
So we're going to see Lawrence Okoli in about 3 minutes' time. First defence of his WBO cruiserweight title. The way and the patience he showed in dismantling Krzysztof Glowacki. I mean, it's hard to know how much of it was Glowacki's 35 years of age and the 2-year layoff, but he made him look absolutely ordinary at times in there. And then what a devastating finish it was.
It was incredible. And yeah, he'll really want to get a move on and to try and unify this cruiserweight division. Glowacki, going back to him, look, from the fight that I see him have with Breeders that he lost in crazy circumstances, he showed just then, and it wasn't that long ago, that he was still a dangerous fighter. So don't get it wrong. Lawrence Okoli's been a very good fighter in Glowacki, and I can imagine come Saturday evening he will be full of confidence and looking to replicate that performance and put another devastating display. Because one thing's for sure that we know with Lawrence Okoli, because of the range, the levers that he has, he can punch so hard.
He said something quite interesting in one of the interviews on Matchroom's YouTube channel. He said that when he had the aim of going to the Olympic Games, once he qualified, he almost rested on his laurels and felt like, I've now achieved what I set out to achieve. And he said he feels like that complacency maybe seeps into some of his performances in Rio. He said he doesn't want to show any signs of that complacency again. So even though his aim was to become world champion, he said now that he's done it, I'm no longer thinking I've done it now. He said you will not see a complacent version of me on Saturday night. So David Diamante just bringing the newest champion at the cruiserweight division into the ring. All 6 foot, well, nearly 6'6" of him. And how far he has come in the 5 years since qualifying for the Rio Olympic Games off the back of 23 amateur contests. I mean, it's about as quick as progress gets, really. Now, I know we look at the Ukrainians, one of them we'll see in Oleksandr Usyk in around about 15 to 20 minutes time when we talk about his progress. Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, of course, but all of them had extensive amateur backgrounds, to say the very least. He didn't even really have that, Lawrence Okoli. Yeah, got himself to an Olympic Games, turned over, and well, within 4.5 years become champion of the world in a division that historically we know has been a little bit shallow because it's been a relatively new division, but it is getting deeper, and
yeah,
the kind of fighters around him are no messes at all.
No, he's really looking forward to the bigger fights that are coming, and I'm just so intrigued to see how big he would be as a heavyweight. You know, he's really got the frame to move up. That's obvious. Hello, Edwards.
What a whistle that is! It's almost like you've had big news today or something. Jump in the middle of us, yeah. It's almost like you've had some big news today. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought, well, when I first, today we signed the fourth and final Anthony Joshua promotional contract as he pledged his entire career to Matchroom, which was a massive day for the business. And in the first ever press conference, we both wore a couple of waistcoats and we looked like we'd been for a game of snooker. So today I thought I'd put this on. AJ wore a t-shirt and a pair of tracksuit bottoms. He looked much better than me. So just headbutted that. And I actually remember when you won the world title, I had a waistcoat on that night as well, and I got a lot of
really low one,
and really tight around the belly. But we didn't care at the time, did we? So
I mean, that is, I guess, as big an announcement as you're going to make for a little while. What does that mean, and what implications does it have in terms of a potential network deal later down the line? Because we know obviously this is his last one for Sky for the meantime, and then he becomes a free agent. So where does that leave you?
I mean, I think he's in a wonderful position. I mean, especially if he wins on Saturday. The biggest star, of course, in British boxing, and one of the biggest stars, or if not the biggest star in world boxing. I think that a lot of people just presume it means, Eddie's going to push him towards the zone. Not true. We'll look at the options and make the best decision for Anthony Joshua, with AJ and with 258 as well. Had a great relationship with Sky, great platform for him on pay-per-view. The Zone are being extremely aggressive at the moment, going to make a major play for him, and so will other networks as well. But great position for AJ to be in on Monday morning, can sort of look back and say, okay, now I can look at my options. The focus has been so direct on Oleksandr Usyk that this hasn't even really been part of the discussions. It's just, I always felt, as the relationship's gone on over 8 years, that he will stay with us forever. It's just nice to put it in black and white, for people. You always get speculation, and he just said, look, I'm ready to commit my future to Matchroom. And it's very proud that a fighter of that magnitude chooses to do that. Very loyal man, has been from the start. And, I remember once we had a conversation, it came out in the media that, Dana White in talks with AJ, and this was about 4 or 5 years ago, and my bum just went completely. I'm like, Dana White, oh no, what chance have I got? And I went up to AJ and I was like, I see in the paper that you're in talks with Dana White, and he went, yeah, he called me up, chatted for like an hour. I went, oh no, and he went, no, I didn't know. Obviously, I'm with you, so I just wanted to listen to what he's got to say. And then when I saw Dana White, he said, I spoke to AJ on the phone. I thought, cheeky Santa. He said, but he told me in the first, listen, I'm with Eddie, but I just wanted to. So AJ's like that. He takes all the information in, makes his own decisions, but a very loyal individual. And again, every time he fights, it's major for the business and our family, to be honest with you. Even like our missus and the kids and stuff like that, we're all very close. And nervous on Saturday, but excited as well.
When you look at the deal, forget about the zone or whatever, the broadcast deal. When you're signing a new contract like that, and he's at the stage he's at in his career, how many more fights are you looking at for AJ?
I think that really, just looking at Lawrence Cody's right hand there, which nearly took I know Shane McGuigan's shoulder sockets out. I think really, you look at AJ and you think, he's probably got another 5 years. He's 31 years old. He loves it more than ever at the moment. He's averaging around 2 fights a year. Probably like to see him maybe step that up a little bit. But I reckon he's got another 10 fights in him. Something like that.
He fancies it for another 5 years.
Yeah, that can change. Darren, with you, 1 week you fancied it, 1 week you didn't. But with AJ, he's a little bit more consistent than you. But things can change in your life, can't they? And all of a sudden, right now, I've never seen him more dialed in or excited for a fight than this. Honestly, like he's training the way he's prepared, how excited he is for the challenge, and he loves it. Like I can't imagine him doing anything else, quite frankly. Like what would he do? And I think I see him fighting for at least another 5 years, but it's always fight by fight when you get to this level.
Well, I was just going to say, I guess, with Canelo, you're in a sort of similar situation. When they're at that kind of level, they have their own drawing power, and you can take him wherever you want. Of course, Canelo is on that deal where you can move into other networks if you want. Would that potentially make life easier for you in terms of trying to get these big fights made that have been so sticky with the likes of Wilder, with the likes of Tyson Fury, if AJ wasn't linked to one specific network, or is that not really a consideration?
Well, you've seen that with Canelo Alvarez. I mean, basically, they wouldn't let Plant fight on the zone.
Right.
So the only way that undisputed fight gets made is if he fights on PBC. And quite frankly, they didn't want me involved, PBC. But I just said to him, mate, crack on. Like, you want to become undisputed. And this is your opportunity. With this situation, being a network free agent, yes, like with the Tyson Fury fight, for example, you go to the broadcaster that could make the biggest bid, etc. I do see AJ aligning himself with a broadcaster, but again, that's a conversation for another day and for the future.
And let's talk about this young man here, because we know the fight that he really wants in terms of unification with Myris Bridis, and of course there are other champions, Arsene Gulamarian and Ilunga Makabu as well. Has there been any kind of approaches or any early discussions as to some of those fighters in unifications, and how likely are we to see those before he does move up to heavyweight?
Well, he's crying out for them already. I mean, he only won the title a few months ago, and he wanted to unify already. He won a vacant title, so the WBO put the mandatory on him. Krasovich, undefeated. I think he's going to take him out, to be honest with you, and I think he's going to do it in devastating fashion as well. He wants Bradis, he wants Makabu, he wants Gulamarian. There's been conversations with all three. Of course, Kalasalan works with Bradis. Gulamarian has a fight with Igorov coming up. He's been in contact. They all want. I think in that division, they've never had, outside of Bradis, who had the benefit of the WBSS and the financial gain that came with it. Gulamarian and Makabu have never really had the big paydays of the unification fight. All different fights in different ways, aren't they? I mean, I actually look at Makabu and think, I think that's a tough style for Lawrence Okoli. Much shorter man, comes in, moves his head, likes to swing those hooks over the top, has big power, of course. Gulamarian's a strong guy. And Myris Bradis is arguably starting to approach a pound-for-pound top 10. He wants Bradis, I think, Okoli, because he's the king of the division, isn't he? But
he's the ring
I can really see if we can get the right flow going with his career and the right path. I think he can win every belt in the division. And then I'm really excited to see him at heavyweight.
So is that the goal, though? He wants to unify the division
and move to heavyweight really as soon as possible.
So not just winning another title at cruiserweight.
I think that would do, but wouldn't it be great to try and go through every champion? I mean, Bradis is going to move up at some point. He's going to want the bigger money of the heavyweight division. One thing is that Okoli has the power to knock out not just heavyweights, but many horses as well. I know. I mean, I think he's very coy about his weight.
Yeah, he is.
Right? And I said to him, what do you think? He got asked the question the other day. What do you think you'd go in the ring at as a heavyweight? Because they were talking about Oleksandr Usyk. I said, do you think you'd be sort of 15.5 stone? I think he'd be well over 16 stone, to be honest with you. I think he's 16 stone when he fights on Saturday, to be honest with you. Legs need a bit of work down the bottom, and with the old calf races.
Well, obviously, when you've won, was it Health and Fitness Book of the Year, you're in a position to give this kind of advice.
Yes, and to be honest with you, the one thing that I do have
big week for
is good calves.
Yeah, I
swear to you, I've got decent calves.
Okay.
I've got bigger calves than Okoli and AJ, but everything else
you haven't got big
pales into insignificance.
Gareth A. Davis got a great set.
Has he? Lovely. But Okoli is obviously at this stage of fight week, and probably for the last 2 weeks, everything's about bringing himself down to the cruiserweight weight limit. He can't stay there forever, and he is a unit, and he punches really, really hard. I'll take you back about his calves. They've got bigger, actually, just in case he watches this back.
I'm not saying it.
No, I know. And also a great link up with Shane McGuigan, who is,
defending undefeated WBO cruiserweight champion of the world from Hackney, London, the Sauce, Lawrence Okoli. Making his main defense on Saturday night.
I'm a bit nervous about Saturday, so I'll pass it over to some of you experts. I mean, firstly, the analysis about the weight that both fighters will come in at. I mean, everybody loves a big debate, don't they, just before they get on the scales. I saw AJ today at the photo shoot. He had his shirt off and he looked like an absolute machine. And I said to him, wow, you look lean. I was only joking. He went, what do you think? Yeah, everyone's been saying that. Probably looked the same kind of weight that he was for Ruiz too. Yep. But Usyk,
237.
Usyk, what did he weigh against Chisora?
222.
And what do you think he'll weigh here?
I'm guessing that as well. I'll have to look that up. Do you want to get Box Rec out and have a look in case people are now shouting on YouTube?
Great stuff for the research, lads.
But I probably wouldn't say too far off that. He wouldn't want to bulk up too
maybe.
much.
I think he does look bigger.
He does look bigger in the little video.
But
228, 229 maybe.
I don't think that helps him. I mean,
from what the clips I'm seeing, though he does look slightly heavier, he still looks very nimble. He still looks very sharp. It doesn't seem like it sapped him of any speed in any way, which, let's get it right, is crucial in this fight against Anthony Joshua. That thing he takes into this fight, Well, he's not going to overpower Andy Joshua, is he? But it's going to be about speed.
All I'll say is, if you watch the Usyk-Joyce fight back, that was 2015.
I watched that yesterday. I was a bit worried about that.
Yeah, but Usyk was a lot quicker then, a lot sharper then. He was a lot lighter then. I think he has noticeably just lost half a step there, and over a progressive period of time.
But when you watch that WSB fight, which I watched last night, is there any way he chooses to fight like that in this fight?
I think at points he may do. Yeah, does that worry you a bit?
Yeah, it does actually.
Well, definitely from the first bell, that's exactly how he will fight.
You think so?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt.
Come out fast.
I think he'll come out
the centre
slower.
of the ring, and he will move around that centre. I don't think you'll see him get backed up against the rope. From little clips that I've seen, I think there'll be lots of lateral movement and circling back to the centre of the ring. I don't think you'll see Usyk's back on the ropes that often.
That's the danger area, isn't it?
But then
you saw that
can
against,
he maintain
one it against Chisora, and two even against Chaz Witherspoon when he hit those ropes and he was getting hit on the shoulder and so forth. He didn't like that, but it's also a tough job. I mean, I think when I look at this fight and I speak to AJ, I do feel like part of AJ wants to show everyone how good he is in this fight. Like everyone's talking about, everyone's talking about, walk him down, beat him up, be the bigger man. And AJ's going, no, like I want to actually break him down and show you how good I am. Dangerous, I think.
But is there a danger that he opts for that and then it gets to the 6th round?
Yes,
and he's down.
Yeah, that's the concern. A lot of people saying,
don't be playing catch up.
Tony Bellew said to me the other day, I think AJ knocks him out. He said, but he could have to come from behind.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
You know, and Sam Jones said to me earlier, I bet he's behind after 3 or 4 rounds, and he believes he's going to knock Usyk out. But I don't know. Like I started thinking, AJ's got a tremendous jab. He's got great range.
Well,
he's actually got good feet as well.
The variation with the jab is incredible. And we did the tactic thing for the zone, the show, and the way that he positions the right hand through the southpaw against Charles Martin, with that jab, it makes him so dangerous because we touched on that. Against Tony Bellew, Usyk did get caught with a straight right.
He did against
Chisora, against Witherspoon, he got caught with the
right
long hooking right hand. So he does get caught. And if you get caught with Andy Joshua with 10 ounce gloves on, how are you going to react? How are you going to take those shots?
Well, how many are you going to be able to take?
Exactly.
But I do think AJ's got to put a dent in him early in those first 5 or 6 rounds. Whether it's to the body, arms, head, wherever it is, just to make Usyk, just feel uncomfortable in it. I'm absolutely bricking it.
Fabio Wardley has done about, he reckons, 30 to 40 rounds with Usyk. Been out with a couple of camps with him. He said one of the first things that happened, he said, I got sort of put in the back of a van, driven out into the countryside, got out. He said, just on this farm, he said, and to the left was just a cage with a bear. And he went, what's that? And they went, it's a bear. And he went, right, okay. He said, you're in deep. He said, you're in deep. They do things differently. And actually reminded me that it's a really good documentary, by the way, as they bring Oleksandr Usyk into the ring. Reminded me a little bit of Deer Lake, his preparation out in the wilderness, at one with nature. He's a fascinating character, Oleksandr Usyk. What do you make of him for the time you spent with him?
I think that Dillian White summed it up quite well. They were saying to him, he's this crazy guy. He said, he's not crazy. He said, he's eccentric and a bit weird. But he's not, I think Dillian said, he's not a nut. Like as in, he knows like some heavyweights are just bad men. Usyk's a nice guy. He's a family man. He's come through that in his life. He's a competitor though, and this is what he wants more than anything. It's not about the money for him, by the way. This is about him securing his legacy as a world heavyweight champion.
And just quickly, do you rank him 3rd heavyweight in the world? How do you see
I think you got Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Dillian White. I mean, I think White, Usyk. I don't know. I mean, I think all of those guys. No, basically. And here we see the man.
Usyk.
I don't expect, by the way, either man to do that much. Certainly not Anthony Joshua. He's actually become and got to a point now where I think AJ used to do these media workouts. He used to get his hands wrapped, skip for 10 minutes, do 4 rounds of shadow, 3 rounds of pads. Now he'll come in. I think he'll wrap his hands. Oh, a little glimpse of the abs there. Look quite tight.
I noticed that with Callum Smith. You can see the fighters that have fought and done loads of big title fights before. They just go
Campbell Hatton came out, letting his hands go on the pads.
I remember the first workout with Campbell Hatton. Blimey, he did about 6 rounds.
I think he does look bigger.
Solid.
I mean,
he looks solid.
I mean, look, he's had a big. Don't forget he boxed the Chisora in November last year. So he's had 10 or 11 months to put bulk on, to work on his size, and looks pretty big to me.
Yeah, the shoulders and the neck, to be fair, it does look bigger.
It's quite early in the week to have the open workout. Joshua obviously has a lot of media commitments. Is he trying to kind of manage his workload fight week?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he trained this morning, and then he came and we had the announcement, and then he did some stuff for JD Sports, did some other stuff. I think he slipped off for a little kip, and then he'll come here tonight. Tomorrow is more of a chilled day, but it's very difficult to be chilled when you've got as many commitments as Anthony Joshua, you know, for various different sponsors, for international broadcasters, for the fans, for the stadium. And, you know, I think the plan is just to spread things out a little bit more, give him a little bit more of a down time tomorrow before the press conference. He'll train most days. I think, you know, he's that kind of fighter. I don't know, Darren, with you, when you were, obviously they're not making weight, but I think most fighters these days want to train most days. I don't think you used to.
No. My last
that wasn't a dig, by the way.
But I would have a little shakeout on the Wednesday if I was fighting Saturday. Nothing Thursday.
But I think that's changed.
On the weight.
I do think that's changed now.
Certainly, with you do try and replicate doing something at the time you're going to be fighting. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a little shakeout around 10 o'clock just to sort of get your mind on that time. He's some talent, and I guess I was going to say, and I think I've read a couple of places about this, but say if it doesn't go the way you want it to go and Usyk does get the win, what happens after?
Is there a rematch?
Yeah, there would be a rematch, and you know that's pretty standard for a champion facing a challenger. That's never a good thing, because whenever you lose a fight, depending on how you lose it, it's quite difficult to go straight back into a rematch.
Would it be immediate?
Yeah, I believe so, because that's what AJ's like. I mean, look, you look at the Andy Ruiz fight. To be honest, I wasn't overly comfortable with AJ going back into that rematch. I think he had to, but coming off a defeat where you've been put on your backside, 5 times?
Yeah.
And almost borderline humiliated in front of a sold-out Madison Square Garden.
And history tells you that quick rematches like that go the same way.
But I think at this stage in the career, that would be the only option. But then you're kind of back against the wall, almost like if you lose this one, you're back-to-back defeats. Where do you go from there? And, you know, this is, you know, I watch this man and I think the one thing that's so off-putting about this man is his mind.
Yep.
You know, and the fact that he is such a good thinker. And I think that's the danger in this fight, is just that.
He's content, he's happy, and you see him in the deep wilderness in Ukraine, and you know, you watch films like Rocky IV and they make out it's so hard and it's so tough. For him, it's like a walk in the park. He seems happy in that environment, that it's not tough. So I don't think anything's going to faze him.
Do you think he fears AJ's speed and power? I mean, I
don't think he'd fear anything through the amount of fights that he's had and the experience he's got through the amateurs and the big fights he's had. I think now for him it would be the fear of not performing to the best of his ability, the fear of losing, the fear of not becoming the heavyweight champion. And look, when that first bell happened, that can play a part.
Well, good news is he dropped the ball, so that's a plus.
That's a metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah. I saw AJ
so did I.
juggling. What was all that about? The other day on his Instagram.
A little bit of a fun competition between the pair of them.
He looks a lot more thick set, doesn't he?
He does.
Than the Chisora fight.
And of course, he was ringside on that night where Joshua was beaten by Andy Ruiz. I remember
his face,
getting the lift up. Yeah, I remember getting the lift up with him, and he went, "Boxing is crazy." And you think,
where's he from?
Well, Wales.
And I remember speaking to Oleksandr Usyk, and he just turned to me and said, "Hello, boy, boxing's crazy."
But yeah, so he saw what he needed maybe to see that night, to know that there are chinks in the armour and to know what he can exploit.
You know, when you talk about the tactics of Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder, where he came out and said, "I'm going to back him up and I'm going to beat him up," whether Usyk just decides to do that, whether he decides to take the middle of the ring. Do you know another fascinating thing in the dynamics of this fight is the relationship with Vladimir Klitschko, right? Because AJ has always been quite close to Vladimir Klitschko after their fight, and they've always sort of talked about tactics for each fight. AJ said, strangely, Vladimir's gone very quiet at the build-up to this one, because he works with Usyk, and you know that Vladimir's giving Usyk advice. for this fight, unquestionably, right? He's definitely not staying impartial. And one of the things that Vladimir Klitschko did, although a similar size to AJ, was from that first bell, charge out almost like a shire horse and take the middle of the ring with high hands and push AJ back. Now, I'm not saying he does that, but everybody just presumes that he boxes on the back foot here. Not saying that he boxes against the ropes, but he boxes passively and not aggressively.
Potential spoiler, we may potentially, there's whispered that we might have Vladimir Klitschko on before the belt Saturday, so we can ask him.
Oleksandr Usyk.
Yeah, there were rumours that he was over, weren't there, Vladimir Klitschko this week? I don't know whether he is or not, but
naughty man.
If he is, we'll have to grab a word with him. But I do wonder whether they cross paths at London 2012, these two, because they were also, remember, in Baku where Usyk won the gold and Joshua was beaten by Mihai Nistor and came away with the silver. So presumably they spent a fair amount of time around each other in the amateurs. It's a familiar face to Anthony Joshua, not just in the pro game, but in the amateurs as well.
Can I just say though, what a fight!
Yeah, hell of
a fight. I mean, I've just watched that there, and I have to admit, I'm borderline petrified.
Think seconds before that first bell. The atmosphere in that stadium.
The stadium is unbelievable, and the fight is so good. And one of the most refreshing things is, I've done a lot of media today. I haven't had one question about the undisputed fight. Everyone's just talking about this fight, and I think that's really good for Josh as well, because for the Pulev fight, a little bit for Ruiz too, but certainly for Ruiz 1. And every other fight before, all people were talking about was Wilder or Fury or the undisputed. People are giving this one the credit that it deserves and saying, forget that for now. This could go any way on Saturday. And,
we'll find out, mate.
Oh, mate. Yeah.
There he is over there, just talking to Sky Sports. Remember, we'll be on Sky Sports in the UK, the zone in 170 odd territories around the world. Spurs Stadium, Saturday night.
I think he's that face, though. I think there's a little bit of markup to be done around those cheekbones, Darren, and those eyes. A little bit.
He's definitely got sharp features, hasn't he?
Yeah,
maybe a cut or something.
But listen, maybe I'm clutching at straws now. But
it feels
we'll
like
find out
you
after a few rounds, won't we? If he starts establishing that jab, AJ, then we'll find out. But that's key for me, just not to get too technical. Establishing that jab from outside and inside the southpaw starts to be able to try and land that backhand. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing, if he can do that, AJ.
There was Usyk, just saw a couple of shots of him there, just talking to Sky Sports. And that is what we've got to look forward to. Our main event, WBA, IBF, WBO World Heavyweight titles on the line Saturday night. Is it nice to be back in a big stadium? I know we had a little taster with Leeds, but this is on a different scale again, isn't it?
Over 3 times bigger. Yeah. You know, was there on Saturday to see his team do the business. And
did you know that's what that meant, by the way? UTC.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
I don't know. I didn't know if you know the football lingo.
All right. God. We did have football at Eton.
Yeah. It's good to know.
You know, so no, it's just the most amazing, and actually just a funny story about that. I was a season ticket holder for Spurs for 4 years, right, as a kid, sort of 13, 14, 15. Yeah, with Klinsmann and those days. That's where I used to go.
Wow.
And when I was in the box, there were, they'd bring in the sort of legends that played, and they were all players that were in the team when I was watching, like Paul Allen, Steve Sedgley, Mickey Hazard. And they were like, "Oh, probably don't know me." I was going, "No, you had your shirt." But what a stadium! Unbelievable, and obviously full to the brim. The atmosphere is going to be unbelievable, and for a massive fight, Alex Krasovich down there, that he's got a cheeky face on. He's very confident.
And I know you always say, the hallmark of making the big fights has been difficult teams and difficult people to work with. The one thing I know you've always felt with this team is they've been ultra professional and always a pleasure to work with.
Yeah, Oleksandr Krasovich, before the Tony Bellew fight, I got the train to Paris because I couldn't remember what happened. Oh yeah, that was right. Because he's from the Ukraine. He didn't have a British visa at the time because you have to apply for it. So I said, I'll meet you in Paris. We'll meet at the Charles Cinq Hotel, which is a fantastic hotel in Paris. And we did a deal I had no paper on me. And I asked the reception for some paper and they gave me a notepad, which was about that big. And we did the deal on the notepad, right? Over 2 hours at lunch. And it eventually got papered. We didn't just walk around with that. And every point that was written down at lunch was agreed to in the contract.
Wow.
I mean? Straight people. We did the Bellew fight. We did the Chaz Witherspoon fight. To be fair, when Spong tested positive and Witherspoon came in on the Monday, I didn't even change the deal for Usyk, the money or anything. I gave him the same money for what was a much easier fight. Then we did the Chisora fight. They were patient with that through COVID. They've been great to work with, and genuinely they believe that they can win, and they're here to win. And it's competitive. Igis Klimas, who's with Usyk there, he's a little bit more difficult to work with than Alex.
He's a bit more scary than
He's
Alex.
a manager.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
sometimes we get on, sometimes we don't. But he cares about his fighters, and he wants them to get what they deserve. And as much as you'll see the passion from me and our team and you and Bellew and everybody on Saturday, they've got that same passion for the sport, and that's when it's exciting because it is sport at the end of the day. And no one wants to lose, but you accept in sport. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, as in life.
Well, that's how you want to do business. I don't know if we can get a shot of Usyk with any of our floating cameras. Get a look. They're coming over to say hello, so we can see and get a proper gauge of just how big the big man actually is. You went, it's your time. Well, actually, it's your time, mate. But all the best. Thank you, guys. So, seeing him up close, what are your impressions?
Oh, he's tiny.
Yeah.
No, shovels.
Yeah.
I tried to give it the crunch. It didn't go well.
No,
you know when you try and do the crunch and they just pop your bone out the side and they know, but you try and pretend that you didn't know. So no, he's just, you know what, nice guy, to be honest with you. Like, you can't not really like him. And someone said to me about, what do you think it'll be like at the press conference? Will AJ be, sort of all business? People talked about the Ruiz press conference when he sort of befriended him and gave him the belts in New York and stuff like that. And then you saw the Pulev press conference where AJ kind of just flicked a switch and stuck it on him a little bit. But
You see, another thing that makes him very cool and calm is not only does he have bundles of experience and self-belief, he has tremendous faith in God. And that makes him kind of unfazed. He's just like, look, in God's hands,
I think he will be unfazed. Like, when you look at his resume, one of the key things is the ability to go into an opponent's backyard and get the result. Whether it's Marko Hook in Germany, whether it's Tony Bellew in Manchester, whether it's Gassiev in Russia, whether it's Bradis in Latvia.
Been on the road for 6 years.
They are like, look, Bellew was 19,000, but this is a bit different.
I think AJ will be more nervous. There'll be more pressure on AJ than there will Usyk. Therefore, he will probably go in the ring more relaxed out of the two.
Bloody hell, Cal.
What I mean by that is there's not as much pressure on Usyk. Do you know what I mean? All pressure is on AJ. Let's talk about it just one time in this interview to tee up that mega fight. The pressure's on AJ. So I think he'll go into the fight calm. Don't get me wrong, we'll be worried about who he's facing, but I think as far as pressure's concerned, I think that lays with AJ.
Please welcome to the ring the fighting pride of all the United Kingdom, fighting out of Watford, England. Please welcome the reigning, defending, unified heavyweight champion of the world, AJ Anthony Joshua.
To be fair, he looks big, doesn't he?
Yeah.
To the one
Massive.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is a one-off, isn't it? Yeah. It's hard to kind of put it into words if you've never met him in person. But also the fact that he only actually hits the scales at about 17 and a bit stone. Is the other thing
I
that's bizarre.
don't want to make this interview about me, Chris, but I do weigh nearly 10 pounds more than Anthony Joshua.
So calves.
Yeah.
It's all in the bottom leg. It's all in the bottom of the leg.
But what an absolute specimen. I mean, look at the size of his arms. And they're talking about his lean. Wow. Actually, I'm a lot more relaxed now.
There you go.
Feeling all right now, yeah. So yeah, brought in a sort of new look team after that first Andy Ruiz defeat, Angel Fernandez and Joby Clayton, and it does look a much looser, leaner athlete. And
one thing, Chris, as well, and Darren as well, you see with his hooks now, especially when he's practicing, they're a lot wider.
Yep.
The hooks,
I like the way the elbow comes up.
Before he, brought in Joby and Angel, Rob's got that very sort of compact style of, the traditional 1-2, and that hook's in here. And now he sort of brings that hook a lot wider. I think it looks like it carries a lot more power as well.
And the one thing that when you speak to guys that have gone and sparred with him, and you get an idea of the kind of common denominators, they all say I was surprised how light and fast he was on his feet. You know, there is a little bit of criticism, I think, pre-Ruiz, that people said, oh, he was a little bit stiff and a bit robotic, but everybody who's spoken to that has sparred him has said quite the opposite. Very fast, very light, not as easy to catch as you think he will be, and mobile for such a big man.
Sorry, Chris. I just read Rob McCracken's mouth there, which was like, that'll do.
That's all we're getting. Well, that is a light workout.
Yeah.
That's even enough for you to not be out of breath.
Well, I think the good thing for AJ, because of COVID regulations, we didn't allow the public in here tonight.
Right.
So he feels less obliged. Basically, he looked around, he saw us three and a load of media and went, "That's my lot.
I'm done."
But let's be honest, he ain't that lean. I mean, he's lean, but he's not lean.
It's not like your calves lean anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the reigning, defending, unified heavyweight champion, Joshua. Saturday night, main event, do not miss it.
So he pledged his career to matchroom boxing earlier on this afternoon. He will see out his
great Nick, isn't it?
career here with Eddie Hearn and matchroom boxing. But there is serious business, high risk, high stakes chess against a very high level opponent on Saturday night in Oleksandr Usyk. And I think if you write Usyk off based on performances against Chaz Witherspoon, who's in second gear, and against Derek Chisora, who stylistically can just make anyone look bad on his night, then you do so at your peril. He is going to be live, he is going to be dangerous, and this could be a very, very close 12-round fight there.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's so important for both fighters to grab the fight by the scruff of the neck and really get established early on. For AJ, just quickly, it's about getting behind that jab, being busy with it, busting him up. He has to impose that size and presence into the fight. It's so important because look, I said it at the top of the show, and my dad always said it, and I always reference my dad with this one, is a good big one will always beat a good little one. And I'm not saying Usyk's a little one, but if he can establish that size and that presence into the fight early on, then it becomes very difficult for Usyk.
I think he's going to be really cagey early on. Just even watching Usyk there, just shadow, the movement, the just triggering those reactions.
That's
the feint's going to be key. I mean, I know, but I think AJ's got great feints as well.
Yeah,
and I think he'll be working those feints, but Usyk will as well. And you're right. I think one of the things in the Bellew fight was, although Bellew struggled at cruiserweight and probably didn't have the greatest camp, he got drained by the feet and the feints. And after 6 rounds, he couldn't believe how tired he was after 6 rounds, because mentally he was so fatigued from the feints and from the footwork. But I think sometimes you can overcomplicate that before the fight and worry too much about that. Because I think some people who fight Usyk are already beaten before they go in, because they're mesmerised by this movement and feet. And I don't think AJ respects the ability, but I don't think he's...
Well, then, off them bases, then the feints will probably have more effect on Usyk than they will AJ, because I think Usyk will be more worried about what's coming his way than AJ will with Usyk. So therefore, that makes the feint more, I guess, respectful for the other person when they're worried about the big shot coming back. So that could be very draining for Usyk.
Body work important?
I would say when he gets close, definitely to try and slow that movement down, because there's going to be a lot of lateral movement from Usyk. But I just think about being patient, and especially the jab to this area here. Not so much the target, the stomach, right in the chest there, because when Usyk's moving and he does lean back at times, that's why he does get caught with the right hand. That stays exactly where it is. So the jab, targeting the jab to the chest area, very important. Then you come straight over with the right hand.
So double hard, honestly. Did you really have such an easy upbringing? You never know.
Absolutely bricking it.
I think we said in the preview, which is on the DAZN platform now, AJ needs to not overreact to feints early.
Yeah, exactly. 100%, because down the stretch, we said it a million times, 12 rounds, marathon, not sprint, they take their toll. When you get into them later rounds and you're flinching, and
also you give him data. You give him the data that he wants.
You're collecting exactly what you need. You're seeing the reactions. You're gathering that data, like you say, but it saps you of all your energy. The only point I can reference that is Sergio Martinez. I was just knackered. But, you know, later on in the fight, all them little twitches, you just, oh, drop me out.
Okay, so we're going to grab a word I've just heard in my ear with AJ. We'll grab a couple of minutes with him, and then later on this week we've got a press conference Thursday, normal time.
Yep.
Waiting Friday.
At the O2, and that's open to the public.
And is that going to be in here?
Yes,
yeah?
no, it's going to be in the main
O2?
arena. Yeah, we've already got like 4,000 tickets out.
We're going to have a packet
Yeah, exactly.
out.
So if you haven't got your tickets, limited tickets left, come down and join us tonight. With COVID, we just thought no public tonight. But you'll get a chance to see the weigh-in. We're going to have some music, some good times, and that big event feel back again. So I think big weigh-ins are great.
Yeah.
I mean, you was in New York, weren't you? For AJ Ruiz?
It was unbelievable.
That weigh-in was unbelievable.
It was great.
Unbelievable.
But even to get a taste, sorry to butt in there, Leeds a couple of weeks ago, how great was that? Just to get a real sense of it. And I mean, this is no disrespect to Leeds, it's just a bigger venue and it's going to be double that. It's just, I mean, that was brilliant. Just the weigh-in itself then, you know, we had a few.
I just think people want to go out again, you know, and that was one thing I was worried about coming through COVID was, you know, are you just refined now to having a barbecue and having your mates around, or do you want to return to normality and have a good night? Ticket sales in Leeds, of course, here, completely sold out to Smith Fowler, October 9th. What a card, by the way. What a night. And even Dillian White against Wilding, pre-sale today, general sale tomorrow, flying. And people love a fight night at the O2.
I'm talking about high-risk fights that he didn't need to take.
Yeah, surprising. Yeah, surprising fight. I mean, like we looked at Jermaine Franklin for the fight in the States. Then we looked at
here he comes.
The fight with Areola. And then Wilding presented itself, 6'7" southpaw. And Dillian was like, yeah, 6 weeks to go.
Wow. So AJ, just
this little boy's had it right off. You know Frankie Hayes, right? So he fights down the rectum. So AJ sort of,
up the rectum,
I mean, he took him under his wing, and he's been everywhere. Frankie Hayes been in the ring all around the world, and here comes the big man.
Here he is. Josh, good to see you. So this is Eddie. Thanks very much. We'll see you. We'll see you later on. This is the 8th defence of heavyweight world titles that you have made. It will be the 8th defence. I'm just going to get you to step in and talk into there. Is this the most technical challenge, do you think, you've taken on of all of the challenges you've had?
I can't say that because it's all about my level. Where I was at 4 years ago, certain challenges were difficult for me due to my lack of experience. So it's not so much the opponent, it's where I was at. There's a lot of things I can deal with now. No matter how technical, how aggressive, how strong, I've learned how to adapt in there. So for me, he's a good fighter, like many of the opponents I've faced. Now, I feel I'm quite experienced now in order to be able to deal with different pressures and how to prepare for a fight. So he's very good, there's no denying, like many of my opponents. Now, I've just focused on myself and my capabilities, and I should be comfortable in there, right? Because I know my way around the ring.
I know you're not going to give us much as far as game plan is concerned, but is it important for you to try and establish your size and get that into the fight from the off?
So when you say establish size is a natural thing. I don't need to
Well, just where it's the only division in boxing where you can fight someone who's going to be a few kilos stone lighter than you. So you do, I guess, in some respects, I've said it again, a good bigger will always be a good littler, as they say. Is it a case of you having to get in there, hold the centre of the ring, and establish that size into the contest?
Well, Ruiz turned that saying on his head, didn't he?
Yeah.
So in boxing, anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? So for me, just go out there and have fun. Go out there, do my job. I'm very professional. I'm very dedicated. You know what I mean? You know, it's like when you're training, like you got to be very disciplined, very dedicated. And I feel like you create your own luck. And in the gym, even away from the gym, I've made sure I manifested my own luck. So size or not, speed or not, skill set or not, I feel like I've done a lot of like mental training to make sure that I come out victorious.
You love this side of boxing as well, don't you? The challenge, the technical side of it. You enjoy your chess, etc. Getting in there and testing your skills against someone who's equally as skilled is something that you relish, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I love like watching old school boxing, and a lot of the guys from the 50s, they're not with us obviously anymore, but they've all walked this path before. So for me, I just put myself in their shoes. Like, this is just me speaking to you. So when I'm just out there doing my thing, fighting good fighters, for me, it's nothing. Like, millions of fighters have fought, many great fighters, and walked this path before, done interviews, said they're going to do this, said big men beat little men. I've heard so many repetitive questions from years ago and repetitive answers years ago that people still ask today in boxing. And for me,
all it matters is when the bell goes.
All it matters is when the bell goes, you do your job, and first and foremost, the fans have a good time. That's all that matters. The fans have a good time. It's a different demographic of fans though, in today's era, like social media, a lot of opinions. We understand that everyone's an expert to a degree, but no one can deny when two good fighters come together, it's going to be a good night, and that's what we bring to the table.
Yeah, it is, and it's just 4 days away now. We appreciate your time, Josh, and wish you all the best for Saturday. Thanks very much.
All the
Good
best.
stuff. Nice one. Thank you. Whew. Right.